Coming in at number 10, the finale, Friends. After 10 years of TV, making it to the finale of Friends was absolutely devastating simply because we knew it was the end of an era, and the end of a group of characters we had been watching for a large chunk of our lives. In the final episode of season 10, the gang gather in the iconic apartment to say farewell. It's now completely empty, with the group sharing memories before saying goodbye and each placing their keys one by one on the counter before leaving forever. Not only is it sad knowing they'll never be returning to the apartment, it's the realization that we are all quite literally leaving the home together, which packs a huge punch. Coming in at 9, Rue and Jules' Euphoria. Euphoria is perhaps one of my favourite TV shows in the last little while, and the season finale had me in tears, and you'll see why in a moment. The show itself follows Rue, played by Zendaya, a teenage girl struggling with drug addiction and dealing with her attraction towards her new friend Jules. Jules is wild, out there giving zero shits about anything, however, that kind of turbulent life isn't good for a recovering addict. And we discover this in the final episode. Rue and Jules decide to run away together, just leave and never come back. They pack their bags, head to the train station, and Jules hops on the train. However, Rue pulls back, realizing she can't run away with Jules. She can't leave her family, more importantly she can't put herself at risk of returning to her former ways of substance abuse. Subtly heartbreaking simply because we had been shipping these characters since the very beginning of the show, only to watch on as Jules rides away and Rue remains in tears. So sad. Coming in at 8, Jack Pearson's death, This Is Us. The death of Jack Pearson was building up ever since the very first episode of season 1, with the show implying that he died, but never giving us the details of how that happened. However, in season 2 episode 14, we finally got that answer. After saving his family from a house fire, Jack Pearson suffers a heart attack and slips into cardiac arrest, ultimately passing away. His death was built up so much and was just as heartbreaking as everyone expected it to be. Honestly, I don't think I can watch This Is Us again. I can't deal. Coming in at number 7, The Quarterback, Glee. This is without a doubt one of the saddest episodes of any show I have ever watched, simply because every emotion you see is completely real and raw. As most will know, on July 13, 2013, Corey Monteith passed away in Vancouver from combined drug intoxication after suffering from addiction for many years. Finn Hudson, of course, had such a strong presence in Glee, being one of the stars of the show. However, aside from that, Corey's death was so incredibly sudden and tragic that it's hard not to feel for the actors as well. Throughout the entire tribute episode for Corey, I sobbed like a baby, and you will too. Each character pays a fitting tribute to Finn Hudson, but what broke most viewers was Lea Michele singing Make You Feel My Love. It's real, honest, and is filled with her own personal pain, because for those who don't know, Lea was dating Corey in real life at the time, making that performance 10 times more devastating. In at 6, Pam and Michael's Goodbye, The Office. Now this could quite literally make me cry just from talking about it, so saying that, if I do, just look away. In season 7 episode 22, we say goodbye to Michael Scott in the office, who is heading to Colorado to be with Holly. During the episode, he says goodbye to everyone in the office, one by one. However, Pam was gone the whole day from the office and missed him by mere minutes after he left for the airport. So what does she do? She chases him down. Just as Michael walks into the terminal, we see Pam running after him with her shoes in hand, even buying a ticket to get through security just to say goodbye to him. More emotional still, because Michael had already taken his mic off since he's no longer a part of the documentary. Their goodbye is completely silent, making the moment even that much more powerful. At the end, Pam faces the camera and says, "No, he's not sad, he's just really excited to go home and see Holly." Oh, too much. In at 5, Buffy's mum's death, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Okay, I'm gonna preface this point by being completely honest with all of you. I've never watched Buffy, sue me. However, I was informed by Kelly Powley from Top 10 Nerd and Top 10 Gaming that I had to include this point on my list. So here we are. We'll both find out why soon. In the season 5 episode titled The Body, Buffy is powerless when she discovers her lifeless mother, who has passed away from a brain aneurysm. Now, what makes this episode truly devastating is that although Buffy and her friends deal with death every week, this is a natural death, and one that bewilders the entire Scooby Gang. Not only that, but there is no music in the entire episode. All you can hear is the terror in Buffy's voice when she calls 911 and attempts CPR. So devastating. In at 4, Pusey's death, Orange is the New Black. This episode was painful to watch simply because it was a direct depiction of events that are unfolding across the United States right now. In season 4 episode 12, Pusey is brutally murdered, although some may argue that it was an accidental suffocation. I disagree. During an initially peaceful demonstration in the cafeteria to protest Captain Piscatella's treatment of the inmates stand on the tables and demand resignation. However, Suzanne becomes upset, with Pusey attempting to de-escalate the situation, which is when CEO Bailey apprehends Pusey, pushing her down to the ground with his knee in her back. All the while, she is crying out for help, yelling that she can't breathe. The CEO is eventually pulled off of her, but it's at this moment that we realize it's too late. Pusey is already dead. It's absolutely devastating. Coming in at 3, Fred Andrews, Riverdale. Honestly, I should say right off the bat, this episode had me crying like a baby, which is why it is so far up my list. Again, this list is incredibly subjective, and I know not all folks will agree with me, but if that's the case, do your own list. Anyway, I digress. Now, I should preface by saying that in March of this year, Riverdale actor Luke Perry passed away at his home after suffering a stroke, and in episode 1 of season 4, the cast and crew paid tribute to the actor in an episode dedicated completely to his character Fred Andrews. In the episode, Archie finds out about the passing of his father and must bring his body home back to Riverdale in order to bury him. From the off, the episode is emotionally draining, with each character sharing a touching story about Fred Andrews, while we watch on knowing entirely well that the emotions we're seeing are entirely real. However, 2 of the most emotional moments come when we meet Sharon Doherty's character, who was present at the death of Fred Andrews. Now, this is devastating simply because Sharon Doherty starred in Beverly Hills 90210 alongside Luke Perry for many years, and the second moment that was utterly draining was when Archie drives his father's body through Riverdale and the streets are lined with every single actor and background character who has ever appeared on the show, waving flags and supporting a beloved actor. I could cry now, even though I'm dead inside. In at number 2, the shooting episode, Grey's Anatomy. In season 6, episode 24 of Grey's Anatomy, we all had to suffer through one of the most devastating episodes in TV history. In the episode titled Death and All His Friends, the episode was the second part of a 2-hour season 6 finale, the first being Sanctuary. And of course it took place inside Seattle Grace Mercy West Hospital. The episode centers on a shooting spree at the hospital by a former patient's husband, Gary Clark, with many of the show's most beloved characters dying in the shooting spree. However, in the episode we're discussing our favourite group of surgeons, Christina Yang, Jackson Avery and Meredith Grey, who are attempting to save the life of Chief Derek Shepard, who was shot during the spree. However, during this time Meredith suffers a miscarriage while trying to save the life of her own husband. It's a devastating episode with every character in an emergency situation either trying to protect their patients or save the lives of a shooting victim, all the while trying to remain hidden from the gunman. And finally, in at number 1, The Red Wedding, Game of Thrones. The Red Wedding was perhaps the most emotionally traumatic episode of any TV show in history. I think we can all agree on that. In season 3 episode 9 of Game of Thrones, we watch on as one of the bloodiest massacres takes place in front of our eyes. During the War of the Five Kings arranged by the evil Lord Walder Frey, he seeks to get revenge against King Robb Stark for breaking the marriage pact between House Stark and House Frey. So he gets revenge by quite literally everyone. It's a devastating episode with us losing so many of our favourite characters in the blink of an eye, which is what made it so devastating, the sheer speed in which the entire massacre went down.
Starting off the list at number 10 is a moment from the movie Castaway. Yes, I am talking about the moment that Chuck loses Wilson the volleyball, aka his best friend. Throughout the movie we see Chuck, who is stranded on an island for years, become best friends with a volleyball who he calls Wilson. It sounds silly, I get it, but when you're so isolated and alone, you create a bond with basically whatever you can. The volleyball was almost like a pet to him. He had this close bond with him, and the moment we saw him separate was completely devastating. I had no idea a volleyball would be able to me up in the head so bad. In the scene, Chuck is woken up on his draft by a whale's blowhole spray. Wilson was tied to the mound when he fell asleep, but he notices that he is gone when he wakes up. He starts to call out his name and sees that Wilson is floating far away in the water. In this big desperate attempt, he tries to swim after Wilson, but the water is so rough that he realizes if he lets go of the rope, he loses his raft, but if he hangs on, he loses Wilson. It is in that moment that we realize just how much Wilson means to him and what he truly symbolizes. symbolizes. Next up at number 9 is a movie moment from Old Yeller. You know exactly what I'm referring to, the horrific scene when an owner has to kill his own dog. That is literally every dog owner's nightmare. Like when I think about my dog and I think about this movie, it makes me want to cry and bring her to the studio with me every day. Travis's dog, Old Yeller, becomes part of the family like most dogs do, but at one point in the movie, Old Yeller has to defend the family against a wolf and he ends up getting bit by him. He becomes injured and is exposed to rabies, which means he is now a threat to the family. So, the only way to put Old Yeller out of pain and keep his family safe is to kill him. Travis takes a rifle and shoots him, and it is the most awful thing you will ever have to watch. He protects his family and that's what he gets in return? It's just not fair. But keep in mind, rabies back then were a different story than it is now. Coming into number 8 is Little Woman. You guys, when I first watched this movie when I was younger, it really messed me up. For those who haven't seen it, it follows the story of the March sisters, 4 girls who are trying to make ends meet in their New England home while their dad is fighting in the Civil War. Times can be pretty harsh and they try their best to stay positive and keep their very close sister bond. But then the most heartbreaking thing happens, and spoiler alert, Beth dies, one of the 4 sisters. That scene of her death was literally heart-wrenching for me personally, and I think that's because I have 3 sisters, so the thought of that just physically hurts my heart. But yeah, even if you don't have sisters, it is still one of the hardest scenes to watch in a movie. And at number 7 is the moment when Andy gives his toy away in Toy Story 3. Call me dramatic, but this was a devastating moment for me, and I know I'm not the only person who was affected by this as a kid. Why was it so sad? Well, for the first 3 movies, we watched this bond grow between Andy and his toys. Not only that, but we also grew a bond with the toys. When Andy was growing up and going off to college, we had to watch him move on from his toys. We were thinking that they would be stored in the attic or something, but instead he puts them in a box on the curb with the trash. Andy threw out his toys that were once his best friends. Not only were we watching Andy give up his toys, but that left us wondering if that was the end of Toy Story. Where would the toys end up? If they had a new owner, will we even care to watch it? I mean, Andy's name is on Woody's boot. I feel like you guys probably think I'm crazy or something, but you are lying if this scene didn't make you feel some type of way. You're lying. You're literally lying. Like, you're a liar. And spot number 6 is from the movie Marley and Me. Yes, I am talking about the scene when Marley the family dog is put down. Listen. Any scene that involves a dog dying and I am an emotional mess. I have a pet dog, but even before I had my own, I had a family dog all growing up, so I guess I'm just very emotional when it comes to dogs. However, I do feel like any pet dying is just a trigger point for most people. In the movie, Marley has been in the family for years and he eventually gets diagnosed with a stomach torsion condition. Basically, his stomach becomes twisted, which is a very common thing in dogs of old age. The best option for him, since he is in a lot of pain and with his age, is to put him to sleep forever. The scene when they put him down and Owen Wilson is crying and saying goodbye to him as he lies on the table. It's brutal. Halfway through list number 5 is when Mustafa dies in The Lion King. Another Disney moment that broke the hearts of children all across the globe. But not even just as kids, because in the new live action remake, that scene still affected people, including adults. Watching Mufasa fall to his death and getting trampled by Stampede was horrifying as a kid, but the most heartbreaking moment is when little Simba goes to see his dad's corpse just laying there lifeless. What makes the moment of his death even worse is that we as the audience know the truth, and we know that he was brutally by his own brother, Simba's uncle, so it wasn't just some accidental tragic death, he was. How is this even in a children's movie is shocking to me, but it is Disney and they get away with everything. Here we are at number 4 with the animation movie Up, the moment that Ellie dies. I don't care what anyone says, animation videos are just as effective and sad. In the beginning of the movie, we see a 5-minute tribute showing the relationship of this adorable couple, Ellie and Carl. We see their relationship from the very start where they're young and in love. We see them get married, buy their first home together, try for a child, and then they grow old together, which ultimately leads to Ellie passing away, the deadly curse of old age. Seeing their bond and their love together is what makes the scene so significant, because Carl has to say goodbye to his best friend, the woman who has been his partner basically their entire lives. And since this is a real life thing and people go through it all the time, it is devastating to watch. Poor Carl. Taking the 3rd spot on our list is Jackson's death in A Star is Born. Alright, first and foremost, if you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. You are seriously missing out, and no, I am not being told to promote this movie by any means. It is just that good. Seriously, it's incredible. You don't have to be a Lady Gaga fan either. Honestly, I kind of forgot that it was even Lady Gaga in the movie. She does an incredible job, and Bradley Cooper always kills it. The two of them, well, their characters, Allie and Jackson, fall madly in love with each other, and we see their relationship flourish as well as Allie's singing career. But behind the scenes, Jackson struggles with a drinking addiction and depression, which ultimately leads to him taking his own life. I'm going to ruin the whole ending for you, by the way, just a heads up. Allie's performing one night, and Jackson hangs himself in their garage as their dog sits outside the garage door whining in sadness as if he knows what's going on and can't do anything to help. I have never in my life cried during a movie like I did during this one. And even after I left the theater, I was emotional all night long. Honestly, it was one of those movies that just like stuck with you because it was so heart-wrenching. In our number 2 spot is the choice scene in Sophie's Choice. The movie tells the story of a man named Stingo who moves to Brooklyn in 1947 to pursue writing his first novel. He meets a woman named Sophie, played by Meryl Streep, and learns that she is a Holocaust survivor. Flashbacks of what she went through in Auschwitz help him write his story. If you've never seen the movie though, you've probably wondered what Sophie's Choice means and why that is the title of the movie. Well, it is the most significant part of Sophie's story. While she was in prison in the Nazi concentration camp, she was given an impossible choice by one of the guards. She had 2 children, a son and a daughter, and she was given the choice to pick one of them to live. She had to choose which one would stay alive while the other one is gassed to death. And if she didn't choose, she would have to watch both of them die. You don't have to be a parent to know that this choice is literally impossible, but she does end up choosing, and it is gut-wrenching to watch. I won't tell you who she chooses, because I want to force you to watch this movie because it's so good. It's really hard to watch, but I promise Meryl Streep's performance is incredible. Moving on to the number 1 spot on our list is the ending scene in The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. The 2008 movie told the horrific story of World War II. It follows an 8-year-old boy named Bruno and his family who move near the concentration camp where his dad has just become commandant. He wanders away from his house one day and finds a young Jewish boy named Shmuel who is the same age as him. Shmuel is in the concentration camp, but they still form this forbidden friendship which ultimately leads to the ending scene of the movie, which I am referring to on this list. The boys create this very close bond, and in the final scene, Bruno tells Shmuel that he is his best friend. Bruno actually sneaks into the concentration camp and puts on the striped pajamas to blend in with all of the other prisoners. Not leaving his best friend's side, the two of them, along with hundreds of other prisoners, strip down and head into a gas chamber. That is when we see the 2 young boys holding hands in the crowd of people just waiting to be gassed to death. The scene literally puts knots in your stomach for a variety of reasons, but it is incredibly sad to watch. This one really is hard to put into words. Up next, number 9 is Castaway. Yes, I am talking about the scene when Chuck loses Wilson, the volleyball, aka his best friend. Throughout the iconic movie, we see Chuck, who is stranded on an island for years, become best friends with a volleyball who he calls Wilson. I know it sounds silly, like I get it, but when you're isolated and alone, you will probably create a bond with anything you can. The volleyball was almost like a pet to him. He had a very close bond to it, and the moment we saw them get separated was completely devastating. I had no idea that a volleyball would be able to mess me up so bad. In the scene, Chuck is woken up on his draft by a whale's blowhole sway. Wilson was tied to a mount when he fell asleep, but he notices that he is gone. He starts to call out his name and sees Wilson floating away in the water. In a desperate attempt, he tries to swim after Wilson, but the water is so rough, and he realizes if he lets go of the rope, he loses his raft, and if he hangs on, he loses Wilson.
Well done! Well done!
It's in that moment that we realize just how much Wilson means to him and that it was more than just a volleyball. Cruising into number 8 comes from the movie My Dog Skip. If you've seen this movie, then you already know exactly what scene I'm probably referring to. The movie shows a special bond that a dog named Skip has with his owners, especially a young boy named Willie. From the time he was young, Skip watches him grow up and even protects him from some of his bullies. He also plays matchmaker at one point, helping him form new relationships in his life. To sum it up, this dog was his best friend. And if you haven't seen it, you can probably figure out what I'm gonna say is the dog Skip dies.
He and my mama wrapped him in my baseball jacket. They buried him out under our elm tree, they said.
When Willie grows up and leaves to go to Oxford University, Skip stays with his parents, and in a horrible scene to watch, he dies of arthritis while lying in Willie's old bedroom. Honestly, I just think any animal or pet dying in a movie is the saddest thing in the entire world. Moving on to number 7 is Pay It Forward. I first saw this movie in elementary school. I vividly remember all of us piling into the gym and watching this movie on a huge projector screen. Now, the movie does have a tear-jerking scene, but it also has a very powerful message behind it. So our teachers weren't trying to like scar us for life. There was a point to it. The story is about a young boy named Trevor who comes up with the idea that ends up changing people's lives. He decides that instead of returning a favor, he's going to pay it forward instead by doing good deeds for 3 people. But this sweet little boy ends up getting killed. He sees another kid getting bullied, so he intervenes and tries to fight them off, and in the process, one of them stabs him and he unfortunately dies. I know this movie was supposed to teach me a very valuable lesson about paying it forward, but I remember at the time I was thinking like, the nice kid just got killed. So maybe I don't want to be nice. In spot number 6 is from Avengers Infinity War. I know for a fact that every Marvel fan cried during this scene, but you don't even have to be a Marvel fan for this one to hit you in the feels. At the end of Infinity War, Thanos snaps and has half the population turned to dust, Spider-Man being one of them. Everyone who vanished was ultimately a sad moment, but the thing that really got the audience was when Spider-Man was saying goodbye to Mr. Stark. The two of them have always had this best friend, father and son bond, so to see Spider-Man so scared and helpless and Mr. Stark couldn't do anything to save him, it was just so rough to watch. There's just no way that you can't feel some kind of emotion from this. Even if you're not into hero movies, this shit is sad. We're halfway through number 5 and we have the heartbreaking death that happens in The Lion King. I don't care what you say. You will not convince me that this scene did not make you cry both times as a kid and as an adult. And I'm not crazy, I actually asked some of my fellow hosts that I work with and they also agreed that they cried as an adult. Nothing was more heartbreaking as a child than witnessing Scar Mufasa practically in front of Simba's little innocent eyes. And then to see him lie about it and act like it was like a natural accident. Honestly, this might have been our very first heartbreak, you guys. Like, we probably all faced this heartbreak together at one point in time. No wonder we have trust issues. Up next, number 4 is The Notebook. The ending scene in this movie brings both tears of sadness, but also tears of joy. It's one of the cutest romantic movies out there, but also sad because their story does come to an end. Throughout the entire movie, we watch the love story unfold between Ali and Noah, who is later revealed to be the old couple at the retirement home, reading the actual love story throughout the entire movie. A twist ending that showed us their love never dies and that they always found a way back to each other. Although the ending is really happy because Ali realizes that it's Noah in front of her, they end up cuddling up together, holding hands, and dying together in their bed.
Good night.
Good night. I'll be seeing you.
Noah ends up telling Ali, "I'll be seeing you," as a way of saying that he's going to see her in heaven where their love will continue. I want love like this. Making its way into the 3rd spot is The Last Song. I selfishly picked this one for my own personal reasons because this movie scene got me the most. If you've followed this channel for a while, then you will know that I am a big Miley Cyrus fan, but I promise that is not why I picked this scene. She actually did this scene justice. It's really freaking sad. In the scene, her dad is diagnosed with cancer and she is seeing him for the first time in his hospital bed. She is an emotional mess and she ends up crying out for her dad and crawling into his hospital bed with him.
Sweetie, I love you too.
Love you, Daddy.
Honestly, it gives me the chills every time because there's just something about a father-daughter bond that is so special, and watching that scene is just, it kills me. It's so sad. Taking over the 2nd spot is the finale of Fast and Furious 7. One of the leads in the franchise, Paul Walker, died tragically in a car accident back in 2013. They were in the process of filming the 7th movie of the series when he had passed, so his brother actually had to step in to finish his finale scenes, which is pretty remarkable. The finale of the movie was incredibly emotional because we knew that when the cast was getting emotional, they weren't acting, they were actually mourning the death of their co-star.
You'll always be with me. Change the game without even knowing. And you'll always be my brother.
In the final moment of the movie, you get one final glimpse of Paul behind the wheel, but it was actually his brother. Fans of the franchise knew that this was the last moment of not only his character, but him as an actor. I cry every time I watch it, even when I went back in the script and watched it. Winning spot number 1 is the scene from Sophie's Choice. If you haven't seen the legendary movie, it tells a story of a man named Stingo who moves to Brooklyn in 1947 to pursue writing his first novel. He meets a woman named Sophie, who is played by Meryl Streep, and learns that she is a Holocaust survivor. Flashbacks of what she went through in Auschwitz helps him write his story. While she was imprisoned in the Nazi concentration camp, she was given an impossible choice by one of the guards. She had 2 children, a daughter and a son, and she was given the choice to pick one of them to live. She had to choose which one would stay alive while the other one is gassed to death, and if she didn't choose, then she would have to watch both of them die.
Wie bitte?
Du kannst eins von den Kindern behalten. Das andere muss weg.
Wollen Sie mir sagen, dass ich wählen muss?
You don't even have to be a parent to know that this choice is literally impossible and sick, but she does end up choosing, and it is gut-wrenching to watch. I won't ruin it, I will not tell you who she chooses, but she does choose, and it's awful.
El Franco said, Jack Palance did a huge favor for Marissa Tomei. The card was blank. Wow, I resent that. Hater. Marissa Tomei is a queen, and remember that. Angela Anna said, I just discovered this amazing channel, and now I can't stop watching these videos. I love them. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're loving the channel. Joss is actually right next to me. Nelson Chris said, another theory is Lucy is actually a female vampire. Just face your phone to the mirror. You can't see her reflection. Spooky. Hey, don't reveal all my secrets. Shh. Nikki JD said, I love my cousin Vinny. I agree about Keanu Reeves, he doesn't age at all, only grows his hair and beard, nothing more. Ain't that the truth? He is a god, and My Cousin Vinny is one of the best films ever.
Radical Rainbow says, hope your cold is getting better. Aw, you're so nice. It is. I'm actually not sick anymore right now, which is great. My Christian Life says, when it comes to classic movies, you just can't change them. Stay awesome, thumbs up emoji. You stay awesome too. A remake doesn't change the original though, because the original will always exist, you know? Wicked Anime Girl says Will Smith's career curse is his son Jaden. I don't get why everyone hates Jaden Smith. However, I think Will's career is just fine. Damon R says, did you just call Tara Reid a great actor? Okay, I'm done. Did I call her a great actor, or did I say she was good at playing the girl next door part that she always played? Get it right. Kristen Owen says, not the biggest fan of his, he's not even a real doctor, right? No, he actually does have a certificate. He actually did go to school and has he is a doctor. I know that. I don't know what kind, but he does have proof. Samantha Alvarado Verde says, it's a shame you guys didn't show any footage. All right, guys, I did see a lot of these comments, but please understand that sometimes we can't for copyright issues. That's all. Leah Figure says, okay, I normally don't really care for the bloopers part, but the sound you kept making really cracked me up. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed those ones. I do make a lot of weird sounds. You can ask my roommate. Tap Sweet Top 10 says, the host looks like the Cash Me Outside girl. Excuse me? No, don't say that. I do not look like her. At least I hope I don't look like her. Pretty girl, but behavior? I'm ruining a lot of movies for people here. Then to the end of the movie. What is that noise? That is weird. Hello, phone. I want love like this. Although I want to die first. That way I don't have to deal with that. Taking over the second. Ow, my hair. That's sad. I won't cry though. You will not see me cry. I said that really weird. Kristen Owen says, not... Hello. What am I doing? Oh yeah. Okay. Frosty the snowman was very happy, so in the button nose, carrot nose. I don't know. And 2 eyes made out of coal. A button nose. No, you had a carrot nose. Damn it! I haven't sung that in a long time. Cause that don't make no sense. Too sad for words. Here's all my words. Whales blowhole sway. That is not the word. I meant spray. Oh, it's so sad. Have you seen that? Have you seen that one?
No, I heard it was sad.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Have you seen it? Have you seen that? You haven't seen it, guaranteed.
No.
I knew it. Boy, you gotta watch more movies. What the f? Well said, I'm so sorry. The poor guy. My grammar's wrong and I'm not gonna say it. Old Yeller, Travis's dog. What? Okay, forget this friggin' thing. Let me just wing it. Because I was like, why would they shoot him if he had rabies? But I guess I did the research and back then rabies was like this big, they didn't have like a cure or treatment for it. So it was like, if you had it, lesson of the day, because I didn't know. It's Monday. Although this happens on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but it's okay. I have an itch. I have itchy rib cage. I look like a monkey. But it, excuse me. Bitch, please, my mama picks me. I'll throw my mama in there. Are you kidding? Not a chance. I can't speak. I don't know why I can't say this sentence. All right, that is our sad list for today. Give it a thumbs. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Damn it, Jocelyn. Get your together, Joss.